Hello, whilst working in a new demo application recently, I decided that I wanted to expose a web page in my application which had the license, because I also want to go on and use the HTML to create a help system for my application. So I've achieved that using an OLE control, and we'll be looking at that right after these few words. Hello and welcome to this next video in my series in which I'm looking at getting started with OpenInsight 10, and today we're going to be having a very quick look at the OLE control. Now I'll explain what we're going to do first of all. On the launch window for our application there is a View License button, and if we click the View License, OpenInsight will launch a page which actually has a WordPress page in it. It can be any website, any web page you want, and if it's a little bit small you can press Control and scroll your mouse wheel to make it a little bit bigger. And because this is a web page, within here I have got some links to the email address. If you click that, then the system is going to go away and it will launch Outlook and drop in the email address for us, as you would expect. And if we just scroll down a little bit further, for instance Facebook, if we were to click the Facebook button, then it's going to launch Internet Explorer and put me into my Facebook login. So you can see we've got full web functionality within this little interface. So how did I go about building that? Now what I could do is simply open up the HTML license entity, do a save as and just swap out the URL, but let's do this a little bit more in a little bit more detail. So if I go File and New Form, now we don't need it to be data bound, so we'll just go with an OpenInsight form. And I'm not going to worry too much about the sizing at the moment and dressing up the window, but I will just call this MP_HTML test just for this particular lesson, and we'll set a width of let's have 900 and a height of 750. The initial position can be center of the desktop for this particular one, and I'm not going to worry about the icons or anything else. We've been through all of that before. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop on a container, which is going to be a simple panel, and we'll just set that in 4 pixels from the edge, and we'll leave it a little way up at the bottom there. And I'm going to set the border width to be 1, and I'm going to set the top, left, right and bottom. So that's just going to give us a border around our page. I'm also going to drop onto the form a static text, and we'll just have that down the bottom here, and we'll call that LBL_loading. We're not going to have any text on it, and we'll set the background color to transparent, I think. Okay, that, and we'll just position that where we want it. I think about there should be fine. Bring that over. Now the other thing that we're going to require on this form is a couple of buttons. So I'll grab a push button and drop that one on there, and we'll grab another push button and drop that one on, and this one is going to be button_cancel. You see me do this before, so I'm just going to do this very quickly. We'll set a glyph PNG, and we'll have this one to be exit, and we'll position that center left. And we'll just position that button, I think about there will be fine. So the events for that, on the click event, we're just going to very simply close the window. The other button is going to be a little bit more complicated, because this one is going to be used to reload the page. So we'll call this one button underscore reload page. Just have that reload the page, and we'll put a glyph on there, which is going to be my, which one should we have? I think we'll have replace 2, and again we'll make that center left. We just need to make that a little bit wider, and that all looks quite nice. We'll worry about the code on that in a moment. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is to drop on another edit line. And we can just drop that on pretty much anywhere. I'll just leave it down the bottom here for the moment. And we're going to call this one EDL underscore URL. And we'll just leave the text and everything else blank for the moment. And the other thing that I need to do is to drop on an OLE control onto this panel. And when we are first dropping an OLE control on, OpenInsight asks us for CL SID. And if you click the ellipse button here, then OpenInsight will go away and it will trawl your system and return all of the OLE controls that are available to you within your particular system. And on mine, there are absolutely loads, including a Microsoft web browser control. So if I click OK, I don't need to worry about a license key, but it drops into their shell.explorer2, which is fine. And if we click OK, and what we can now do is very simply reposition the OLE control as we want on the form. And then if we go to, in this case, WordPress, so our website. So this is where I've got my software license. And at the top here, very conveniently, it drops in the URL. So if I do a copy, and then we go back to our application, and in this edit line, the text is going to be our URL. So we'll just accept OK to that. Now, on the actual form, we need to have some code. And I'm going to copy this in from another location. So make sure we're on the form. Events, on the create event, we are going to have the following code. So we're going to insert logical, and then we're going to display the system documentation from WordPress. So the first thing we'll do is we'll set a couple of values. So val 1 is loading web page, please wait, because obviously we don't know how long it's going to take to load up. And then I'm going to prompt the user that they can hold down the control key and scroll the mouse wheel to make the window larger. So we will set the label loading text to loading. We'll then get the URL from the EDL URL control, and we'll send that to the OLE control to load the web page. Now, because we don't know how long this is going to load, I've just got a yield in here which is going to run for a period of time, after which we're actually going to set the property back to value 2, which is our reminder about being able to scale the window. Now I'm just going to copy that and we'll do a compile. It compiles, and what I will do is I'm going to do a save on the window, and we'll call this mp_html test. Okay, that, and then we'll save that code, and should we do a save and close? And for the reload page, we're actually going to have the exact same code. So if I was using a commuter module, which I should be, I guess, then I could just have this block of code at the end of the commuter module with both the create event and the click event for this button calling the same piece of code. Because I'm working with scripts, I've got the same piece of code in two places. It means I've got to maintain two lots of code rather than one. So it's not overly efficient, but it will do for this video. So if we now do a test run of the form, what happens is Open Insight goes away, it grabs the URL, passes it in, and we can actually see our web page. And if I click off onto another area, so for instance I'm going to have the help system in here, but at any time I can go back to reload the page and it will bring me back to my software license. So the last thing that we need to do is just to close out of here, and we now don't need this URL. You could display it if you want to, but for me it's really irrelevant. So what we'll do is we'll just select that, go to visible, and if you ever want to see that control again, remember if we do show hidden controls then it's there, but for the moment I don't need it there. And then if we test run again, we then get a nice clean form loading a web page, and then in a moment we will get the message that we can simply scroll to make that larger. So it's a very simple example of using an OLE control within Open Insight. It shows just how quick and easy it is to use these controls. This is just one example of many, and I'll leave you to experiment with the OLE controls that you need to use for your particular applications. For me, I'm quite happy with exposing the web page in this way. So that's it for this lesson. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next lesson very soon. Take care. Bye bye.